Hey guys, so let's start the series off here trying to pick through this issue that we've got going on with the rut. Let's jump right into this. What we're going to do is we're actually going to start with this process of talking about the post-rut and because of timing here in hunting timing and strategy wise. Now if we were to start from the beginning of this topic, digging into it, obviously this portion would probably be towards the tail end. But like I said, once we are, since we are in that process right now, or in season, and trying to keep this in a timely fashion for folks to use this in the timber yet. So keep in mind, I think it's often forgot, and I think it's everything is for years has been the Midwest has got such a highlight and such an influencer on the outdoor channel and whatever around the country. But I'm here to tell you that there's more hunters to the north and to the south than there is in the Midwest. And I personally lived in both, or the north and the Midwest, and now in central Kentucky, and I don't classify that as the south. So I'm here to tell you, though, there's a lot more hunters and above us and below us in those regions. So we need to kind of use averages as we talk here, instead of saying this is what's going on right now. And like I said in the past, if you're not experiencing it, then obviously you're a bad hunter, and that's not the case. It's all about timing, and that's why what we are going to do today is jump right into this and start talking about how this is affecting the post-rut and why it's affecting the post-rut and what we need to do to react. So the topic of this video here is hunt ready, post-rut, talking about the post-rut, hunt ready. And then we're going to talk about the reaction to the rut. How do we react to it right now because of the changes that we are experiencing, or everybody's experiencing across the country. So I think one thing to touch on is this: we need to, if you live in the now with the rut, can get you into trouble. It can get you into trouble with strategy, can get you into trouble, stand location. And that ties into strategy, I guess, but your food sources, all of that, if you don't stop and think about the rut is kind of a reaction. The problem with it is most people react because they're in the now. They're not planning for taking into consideration what got us there and looking back, and that's kind of one of the turmoil points here, if you will. That's happening across the country. I feel, this is strictly my opinion and the stuff that I've been researching over the years, and now other people are seeing it, and like I said, folks with a lot louder presence or a lot bigger footprint in this industry are starting to put this stuff out, and a lot of folks are listening, including myself. So the reaction. Let's talk about what got us here to this point. Let's talk about some changes. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the does and why the rut, as far as what we're seeing early and what we're seeing late. Everybody, let's just use, and I'm just going to use this round number because I have it written down here. Did some chicken scratch before I started this, so numbers would make sense to us all. Let's use November 15th, obviously, because there's some good rutting activity to the north that happens before that. There's some good rutting activity that kind of peak around that time, and then there's obviously a lot of rut activity that happens to the south past November 15th. November 15th falls on Michigan's rifle season opener, so there's maybe we can relate to that date kind of as a everybody meet in the middle here. So what I've done is this: I've put this on paper, and this is something that I've done before, and it's a real eye opener. Now, when we're going through these dates, remember this can vary, a day or two here or there, depending on the deer itself, the doe itself, as far as as we're going to pick through all the stuff that changes this, health and feed and area and region and moon and weather and all of this. But we're going to base this on a November 15th last year doe being bred and taking during that heat cycle. So she started the heat cycle before, that was affected by the fawns last year and the weaning process and whatever got her to November 15th last year, and she was bred by a mature buck, or a buck in general. and she took. So we're going to pick through this as together, and you can see as we're going why this changes the post rut and can make the post rut so powerful to hunt that most people overlook. So let's read through some numbers here. November 15th last year, the doe was bred. 198 days later, gestation period 198 days later, puts that fawn on the ground about June 3rd, is about how that calculates. So then we fast forward 60 days is kind of an average that I've always ran with when I was in, inside the breeding facilities, seeing those does that we knew had got bred, and on the outside of the fence as far as low fence stuff as well. That's kind of a national average of 60 days in that weaning process. Now, that is where this whole number chain here, educational tool changes, because so we're going to advance this out. So 60 days is the weaning. That gets you to about August 3rd is how the dates roll here. August 3rd, those fawns are weaned, and she starts, depending on exactly how much milk content that she had left over, where in the whitetail range this happens. If she's on good food, she's on good health standards, everything is to the up and up, no parasites, yada yada yada, then her first heat cycle 28 days later puts her around Labor Day. September 1st is her first heat cycle. So September 1st is the doe is in heat. So let's stop there and think about this. If you've ever been hunting early season, especially in a state like Kentucky, and you're seeing some chasing going on, you're thinking, what in the world is going on? It's a heat cycle, guys. It's not, yes, the rut is influenced, the chase is influenced, and the chase is what shows through the bucks going into the fall months, because the less daylight that we have, the more that it throws these deer into the rut breeding process. But to my knowledge, what I've seen, and going back to livestock breeding, is it's a 28-day cycle on deer, and it doesn't just magically start in the fall. It starts back, and there has to be a starting, right? And there has to be an ending. So if you trace this back, now we're at September 1st. We've got a doe that was bred November 15th of last year. We've got the possibility of that doe being in heat September 1st. Okay, so let's continue on. We've got a doe that is in heat there. Obviously, the bucks weren't in that mindset maybe. So she passed that rut, or that heat cycle, and now we're into September 29th. We're into the end of September now. And that doe has cycled again twice in 1 month. So in one date, calendar month. So the 28th, 29th of September, we have that same doe is in heat again, and the days are still, there's a lot of sunlight going on. But depending on where you're at in the region here, and if we're using this as kind of a midpoint, and we're talking about the Midwest, the central part of the country, so you can, advance this to the north. These numbers maybe make a lot of sense. You back this up to the south, maybe they make even more sense. So we've got September 29th as another heat cycle. Does the doe get bred or does she not? We advance it. Now the next heat cycle is October 27th. So October 27th rolls around. Now we are experiencing rutting, and why is that? Why do most of us focus around the date that I love the most in the country, and a lot of the whitetail range, especially in Michigan? My day was October 27th. I always made sure, and I've got some really good stuff that's happened on October 27th. So October 27th is the next heat cycle. Well, why are we seeing the rut? Because we're in the woods, because we're hunting. Maybe we caught the last one September 29th, but like the northern states and a lot of the country isn't even open yet. So that's why we didn't experience any chasing, because we weren't in the woods. We didn't see it. So this is where the human mindset mentality takes over, and we forget about what we're actually hunting is, and how we're pursuing these animals is because if we don't see it, we don't believe it. Well, just because you're not seeing it doesn't mean it's not happening. So the 27th of October, we've got more a possibility of a doe getting bred. The chance of that doe in that heat cycle now is very good. So we've got bucks attentions now. We're in the woods. We've got a higher success rate of hunting, and that doe's in heat. If she does not get bred, that advances her 28 days later is about the 24th of November. So now we're into so you before is about the peak or the pre-rut, October 27th. You advance 28 days into November 24th, and most of us in our mindset tells ourselves that that's the post-rut. It's already passed. Well, it can't be the post-rut if the doe is still in estrus. If the heat cycle is still a possibility. So in this equation, and there's a lot of equations around, we could change the numbers 10 days here, we could change the numbers 10 days there, but what I'm saying is in this equation, October 27th, you advance it, and then we're talking about November 24th, most of our mindset is changing, but that those possibility of that happening is very, very good. So that falls exactly on what I have experienced here in Kentucky to the date, November 24th. So I feel what's happened here last year in central Kentucky is we had the majority of our does here, because of this research and because of what I showed on the farm this year, on my farm, and the neighbors would probably agree with this because we were all chatting about this, is the majority of the does were probably bred on or after November 15th last year. That's why we had great rutting activity around the end of October, explosive rut activities, 3, 4, 5 mature bucks on all of the cameras running the transitions. The neighbors were seeing them, I was seeing them, the people on the road were seeing them, everything was happening. And then we seen this again after the gun season opened here, and everything was off and running, and all of a sudden now the 24th of November pops up, bang, we got a bunch more rutting activity going on. Here you go. So is it the first rut? Is it the second rut? Where I'm going with this, because if you advance it 28 more days, that's December 22nd. So from this area where I am at right here in central Kentucky South, that December 22nd date is, and in a lot of places, maybe a little bit later in a lot of folks' mindset, maybe a week later, but that December 22nd time frame calendar date is what a lot of folks refer to as that obviously post rut and the tail end of the second rut. Well, if you back this up, to me, you've got October 27th as the first rut, you've got November 22nd as the second heat cycle, and you've got December 22nd as the third. So to say that it's the second, it's the third, it's the fourth, what makes that title, the first rut and the second rut, is influenced by what was brought to the table. What makes that the first and second rut? The bucks. That's what everybody thinks makes the rut, is you have to have two to tango. So in other words, these does have been in estrus. This has been a process coming along down the way here, and the bucks weren't involved in it because of the sunlight. The higher sunlight hasn't advanced them into that we start losing daylight. The bucks go into forward motion, if you will, and that October 27 time period, bam, now we are seeing rutting activity. Doesn't mean that the doe wasn't in estrus before. So let's take this as a closing here, and then we'll go into the next one. So this first is the process of elimination. We're talking about some dates, reaction, be hunt ready. Keep this in mind going into the next video. What if the doe got bred October 27th? This doe that was bred last year, November 15th, has a chance to be bred this year, October 27th. So does the rut happen the same time every year, or does it not? So now you can see it's a law of averages. So we're talking about one doe. If you have, like I have here on the farm, I've got probably, I'm going to say a dozen right now resident does because of some, core and some lack of food and stuff like that going into next year. Maybe my numbers will be 15, 18 does. So we're taking an average, so, but this is one doe. So this could happen is what I'm saying is, so take this into consideration, really let this start getting your mind tuned, because this is what got me thinking years ago. A doe that was bred last year, or November 25th, has a chance to be bred this year, October 27th. So we're going to do this in the following videos here. What does that mean if that doe was bred October 27th? So something to keep in mind, guys, as far as your hunting strategies, and why we're doing this, like I said, is obviously preparing you for the profitability, if you will, or the success rate of the second rut, or the post-rut, let's say post-rut hunting, second rut hunting here, third rut hunting, that a lot of folks push off, is because it's baked in our minds that, the end of October, the first week of November, up until the November 15th is when all these does get bred, and that's when we need to, that's what we need to hunt around. And it is a great time to be in the woods, don't get me wrong, but November 24th, pretty strong date. December 22nd, pretty strong date if you write this on paper and put it in front of you. So let's go into the second video of this series here on the next time you tune in, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper into some other causes here.